All right, let's go ahead and get this started. First of all, I want to thank everybody for joining. Really looking forward to this. Some cool stuff coming out from Palo Alto Networks that we're excited to talk about today. First, I'm going to introduce Lance Grover. He's the field CTO over here at Fulcrum. I think most of the folks on this call kind of know about Fulcrum, but we're just going to run through a quick couple-minute high-level overview of Fulcrum, kind of highlight what we do and some of our expertise around Palo Alto networks. And then from there, we'll jump right into the content with Palo. Just a reminder for everybody, everybody in attendance, we'll send you information on how to get your tickets to the Houston Rodeo. And then make sure you stay until the end, because at the end, we'll be doing our live drawing for the $500 Tecovas gift card. So appreciate everyone joining. And Lance, I will turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you, Heather. I appreciate it. And happy Thursday to everybody on the webinar. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule today to join us. As Heather mentioned, I'm going to give a brief overview of Fulcrum just to familiarize those on the call that are, not familiar with the company or haven't interacted with us before. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into that. All right. So Fulcrum Technology Solutions was founded in 2011 as a white glove professional services company. And at the time they were founded, they were offering professional services both as a subcontractor through other VARs and integrators, as well as direct to customers. And over time, as they started to interact more with customers and learning what they needed, more was being asked of Fulcrum, specifically to manage their environments. We listened to the customers, and we established our own managed service practice, our MSP and MSSP. And around the same time, or pretty close to it, Fulcrum established its own intellectual property company called Bully, which offers managed SIM services back into our MSSP. And we have a lot of customers on that today. Being in that trusted advisor position with our customers, we were asked to even do more, right? And to provide product resale capabilities to those customers. And about 5 or 6 years ago, we started our product resale business, which is interesting because if you're familiar with a lot of other system integrators or value-added resellers, generally where they start is at product resale. But what Fulcrum wanted to make sure was that we were providing value and outcomes to our customers before we got into more kind of transactional business. So the guiding principles that you're seeing here on the slide, these are the cornerstone and foundation of our business. But one of them just sticks out to me a lot and is very important to me and I think to our customers. And the fact that Fulcrum today is 100% employee owned and controlled company. And why that's important is because we get to control our company 100% and then also control the outcomes that we deliver to our customers. And while this is maybe not rare in the industry right now, it's definitely uncommon to see a company in this business model. And I think it's pretty special, and it allows us the flexibility and agility to meet our customers' needs and to add more services to our portfolio to help our customers moving forward without any interference. So we spoke about professional services. So I just wanted to show everyone here, these are our professional services, or what we call consulting services. These are our various towers. So we have data analytics, cloud automation. We've split security into offensive and defensive for obvious reasons. So offensive being your red team and pen test, and defensive being more of your blue team and infrastructure security services. We also have an infrastructure practice, a network practice, and identity access and management governance practice. And although these towers represent where our core competencies are, we also do everything in between as well, right? It's easier for us to be able to show you these towers today. There's management structures under them. We have many consultants under each group, and that's underpinned by our managed services. And there's some examples there of our managed services. So we support identity and access management, NOC, SOC, MDR, and others as well. And there is an association between our managed services and our consulting services as well. They're not on islands separate from each other. There are dotted lines between those two. And generally, what we use the consultants for in terms of managed services is for tier 3 and tier 4 support, if you will, escalation points to go back into managed services and help our customers. Our consultants are also leveraged at the beginning of onboarding for managed services in terms of architecture and implementation. So those two groups work together, and through that work, the benefits the customer of having both teams at their disposal. Something else I want to highlight quickly in some news for Fulcrum. In early fall last year, we established a new business line called Talent Solutions. So you can think of this as we are your recruiting or staffing agency inside of Fulcrum. We do this through contract to hire. We have many people out there today. This business line is growing very fast because we all need people. So we have a lot of contract to hire out there. We have direct hire, which is also known as permanent placement. Project-based staffing, we do that. So we'll do some corp to corp as well. And then we have executive search. So we can find people, very talented people, recruit and retain them for you, all the way from the analyst level up to the C level. And if you have any questions about this new line of business at Fulcrum, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Would love to introduce our director of talent solutions to you. And then lastly here, just to kind of wrap it up, I think this is a very unique program in this space when we're talking about system integrators and value-added resellers. And this program is called PS Plus at Fulcrum. And basically what it is that for any customer who purchases hardware, software, licensing, or renewals, 5% of that purchase price you get back in services credits to leverage for Fulcrum's professional services or managed services. And here's why this is special. I've spent several years at different integrators and VARs, architecting and crafting various bespoke rebate programs. And the problem with those is generally not a one size fits all. The spending thresholds on those are very high, sometimes in the order of millions and millions of dollars. They have to be added to governing agreements like MSAs as addendums and evaluated every year. So you're looking at a program that may not fit everyone. But the great thing about PS Plus is that every single Fulcrum customer gets this out of the gate, no strings attached, no paperwork. We manage on the back end your services credits, and over the 8 or 9 months I've been with Fulcrum, how I see our customers leverage this program is that they'll purchase hardware, software, licensing, or a renewal purchase. They'll bank back the services credits, and then they'll use that to finance or fund their other initiatives in either that fiscal year or the next fiscal year. So it is an amazing program. We'd love to talk to you about it more. So if anyone has any questions about the content that I covered today, please, again, don't hesitate to reach out, go to our website, and we'll make sure that Heather gets contact information out to everyone who's on the call today. So with that, Paul, I'm going to turn it over to you for the main event. Thank you, everyone, for your time and attention today. I really appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, Lance. I really appreciate it. My name is Paul Nadeau. I'm a solutions consultant with Palo Alto Networks here in Austin, Texas, and I'm going to go ahead and present part of it here. All right. And you should be able to see the screen now, I believe.
Yes,
we can. Okay, good. If everything works the way it's supposed to. So what we've done is we've actually enabled people to go ahead and ask questions. So you do have a mute button down on the bottom of your screen there. So we want to make this interactive. If you don't want to ask a question live, you can put it into the Q&A, which I believe just the panelists can see. And then you can also put it in chat, which I believe everybody can see in there as well. So several different ways you can do it. But again, want this to be interactive. And so what we're going to be going over today is going to be next generation firewalls. And we're going to be going over CDSS and kind of the how all that works. And also going to be doing a demo of Strata Cloud Manager, which is one of the ways that we can actually manage our firewalls. So without further ado, here we go. So the modern enterprises basically need a new approach. And so what we've had in the past, and as everybody here can imagine, knows is that security has actually changed quite a bit over the last, let's say, 5 or 10 years, right? Especially with AI coming into the mix. One of the problems we're having is the speed and the complexity at which a lot of these hacks and these malware are actually being done and deployed. So the old way of doing it was basically coming in from whether it be a mobile device or you're at home, which COVID actually threw everybody into the home office. Going to the internet, to the data center, public cloud, or into SaaS applications. There was a big move there for a while. It was a big paradigm shift where everybody decided that they were going to move from on-prem into the cloud. And then costs started to get a little out of control. People started moving back. Some people have certain workloads still there. So it's still very much a place where you can park your data. But then it's like, how can we secure it once you get it there, right? Data center, obviously, most of your private applications are still going to reside there. It's one of the things that is still really big, whether it be co-location, where everything is provided for you except for your servers. So you basically put it on a rack. You still have to secure that. And then the internet, which is known as the wild west, right? And kind of how all that gets out there. So what happened with it is everything went from kind of a hardware security stack, the software security stack, and then into SASE. SASE being kind of a combination of SD-WAN, where you have hardware appliances out there, all the way into what we have, and I'm going to show you here in the demo part of it as well, which is basically SaaS or cloud-based and hosted type of applications, right? So everything is done from there. The network security platform, so the unified management. So one of the things with the Palo Alto series here is, as you see down below, the PA series, which are the physical ones, the VM and the CM. CM are the containers for Kubernetes. And then the VM series, which we also have next generation firewall for Azure, AWS, Google for GCP. We also have the VM series for those as well, where we can actually secure your VPCs or the inter-VNet traffic as well. So one of the things that in a security service standpoint is going to be threat protection. Wildfire, which is actually malware. Global Protect, that's going to be your VPN connections coming in from remote locations, and those can terminate either on Prisma Cloud, or I'm sorry, Prisma Access, which is hosted in the cloud, or it can actually terminate on one of the firewalls as well, depending on how you want to do it and what your design is going to look like. SD-WAN, physical hardware devices that actually sit out of branch offices and connect offices into everything, into a hub, being one of your data centers, and that can also be in the cloud as well. DNS has been a huge subject, especially when you look at DNSSEC. Over the last few years, there's been a lot of exploits that came out. When DNS was first designed and implemented, it was not meant to really be secure, right? It was pretty much there for changing your IP address into a FQDN, so that way you could, instead of having to try to remember IP addresses, you could go to yahoo.com, do everything in the background. And those exploits have actually become quite malicious as we go along, right? They can poison the tables, they can redirect DNS queries, stuff like that, which is kind of gives way for a lot of phishing attempts and malware as far as getting malware onto your laptop. Advanced URL, data loss protection is another big one too, right? It's like, how do we prevent data being sucked off of your hard drive, out of your data center, off of your public cloud, right? So how does all that happen, and how we can actually secure that? CASB, and then IoT devices. IoT is one of the big ones out there that is becoming more and more prevalent. Proxy card readers, thermostats. There's a lot of IoT devices that are out there, and how are those secured there as well, right? So that's what we're taking a look at when we actually kind of go and see what there is in the market, as far as customers, as far as different types of the solution overall. So the hardware firewalls, we're 10 times leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for network and firewalls. So it's not just a firewall; it actually does networking as well. We support all the standard protocols, BGP, OSPF, static routes. We also do VLANs on the backside of it, so it's pretty good. The VM and the CN series both. Keep in mind, it's all managed exactly the same. So the only way you'd actually know the difference between it is the little icon in the top left corner of the management console whenever you get into it. That's it. Other than that, everything else is done the same whenever you take a look at it from there. Introducing the fourth generation appliances, which is the latest and greatest. Speeds and feeds have to keep up with those as far as the throughput goes. And then we also have the consistent offering, and then 5G infrastructure, which is actually going to be on the SD-WAN devices. So here's one that's quite interesting. This is this one we could spend a week on, actually, when we start looking at the different layers, right, and how the firewall actually works, and when we kind of traverse between the networking, and then we get up to the actual policy engine itself. There's a couple of really cool things that are done, and I'll kind of explain how it's done and why we do it the way we do. But if you look at the center there, where we have app ID, user ID, content ID, and then device ID. So what I want to do is I want to focus on that and kind of explain how that works and what it does. So when you come up from a networking level in the past, access control lists, right? So back in the day, we used to just put in an ACL, and that ACL was actually there to stop a certain port, a certain IP address, right? And that was pretty much it. That actually traversed quite a while in the industry. Actually, there was really no way to see what the actual app ID was. We started looking at encryption, whether it be SSL or TLS type of encryption that comes across. And now what do we do, right? It's an encrypted packet when we get it. So how do we do decryption to actually take a look at that? So what we've actually done is we now go from layer 2 all the way up to layer 7 for the actual application. So we can see the app ID, we can see what the content is, the device ID, who are we coming from, who are we going to. So we're actually leaving the network layer, leaving the lower levels, right, the 3 and 4 on the OSI model, and we're actually going all the way up to layer 7 to take a look at it and see what is a malicious packet. So what does this mean to you? What is it? Why is that really different, and why is it something that you really care about? At the end of the day, what we have to do is we have to map technology into a business driver, right? If we don't do that, it just becomes a science experiment. And so why this is actually critical is we continuously check as packets come across the firewall, right? So as it comes in, we do a check on it. We don't just open a VPN, say, okay, hey, everything authenticated, it's all fine. You're on your own, and we'll be over here in the corner while you guys do that. So we actually continuously check those packets as they come across. And what that does is once a connection is actually established, if someone were to try to interject something in between there, hijack that connection, we can actually see that traffic and we can start to block it. We give you an example. Somebody comes across with a DNS packet, TCP or UDP port 53 as an example, right, which is DNS. As it comes across, you can actually telnet port 53. So we'll actually see it as a telnet over that port, and we'll block it because we know that that's not what the actual application is for that port number, right? You can put it into learn mode so that basically we learn as it goes across, and so we can actually see what's going on. It starts off at a port base, and then from there, it'll actually go up. Applepedia is actually it's available on the internet. You can go out and take a look at it, and it has all the common applications that there are out there. Big difference between Facebook and Facebook chat, right? So Facebook chat, you can start to download different types of applications or different type of malware through that. Facebook, you can put dynamic links and stuff in there, but like, how do we stop that whenever it comes across? So this is very important. User ID, the same thing, right? So, and I've got a couple slides on this, and take a look at it. We used to just see an IP address, and we would then try to figure out, okay, this is a Apple computer that belongs to, we believe, this person, right? We don't have to do that anymore. As you come across and as you register, whether it be in Okta and LDAP or any other type of authentication system, even Active Directory, we can take a look at it and say this IP address now matches this user, right, with those credentials. And now we can go ahead and make a one-to-one connection on that as we go across, right? So pretty interesting. Some of the core components that we have, here's the app ID, user ID, device ID that we were talking about just a few minutes ago, and kind of what that means and what that actually looks like. Decryption is over here on the right-hand side. I'm going to briefly touch on that here as well. On the far left, wherever you see app ID, little animation there. And what it does is instead of putting a hole in your firewall saying, like we used with the DNS example a minute ago, we're going to use UDP TCP port 53, and we're just going to allow that through. Now you have this huge hole where, yeah, you have the actual packets going across that need DNS, but you also have malware, which can be interjected in there as well, that's using that. Down below, this is what we actually do, right? We take a look at it and we say, hey, does that app ID actually match that port? And is it a common node or is it not? And if it's not, we'll block it. If it is, we'll allow it through. So if Workday comes across, or AWS, or any of the other applications that are out there, we verify that's what it actually is, and then we let it across. User ID for our users, the same thing, like we explained a minute ago here. Instead of just having an IP address and saying, hey, Facebook chat, we can actually say this is Joe the contractor, and he's going to Facebook chat. So now we can, effectively control that traffic as it goes across. Device ID, the exact same thing. We can take a look at it, and even from an IoT standpoint, right? So next generation firewalls, they actually will take a look at this and try to map it going across. We then put it into a database. Once that device is actually known, we don't have to go search for it anymore, right? We put it into our table and we say, we now know what this device is. Here's the IP address of it. If an IP address changes, we know about it, and so on. Encryption or decryption and encryption is a very, very important part of this thing. So as we go across, a lot of malware is actually done across SSL type of ports, where the encryption, it's an encrypted packet when we come across there. So what we do is we can actually decrypt those packets, send it back through the engine to make sure that everything is the way it's supposed to be. Again, all the way up to layer 7, and then we can re-encrypt that packet and send it back on its way again. So very, very important part of it as well. Dive in just a little bit more into App ID. So we're going to take just a little bit of a little bit of a deeper dive there and take a look at it, right? So you have your web port 80. Again, a lot of malware kind of comes across there. But what we do is it's actually application-based control. The door can't be open just for a specific application, right? So you can go through and you can say, I want a broad category of Facebook, or I want ServiceNow to actually be able to go in there, or you can have certain types of subsets of that application as well, right? So you actually control it, and you control it based on whatever you want to do with it, right? Application-based control is the only way to secure traffic going across. So especially with all the applications that there are out there today. If you want to make somebody really happy, throw a firewall on your home office and then block everything other than web. And you'll find out real quick what applications you actually have out there, right? And it's amazing. We're using more and more of them. And some of them that you don't even really know. You go to pay your phone bill as an example. Some of those are actually hosted on AWS. Google Suite, more and more people are moving to that, Workday, DocuSign. And then once we do that, once we know that that application is there, how do we stop malware from being injected in there, right? So on your DocuSign document or coming in from Box, and there's a lot of different ways we can do that. And we can actually do that by using a lot of our Cortex product line, as well as the Global Protect, to say what we can and cannot do on there. So BitTorrent, we can go through and say there's certain ones that you don't have access to, and we can actually block that out. All right, user ID. Are there any questions before we move forward? No questions yet? Okay, cool. All right, so we've been delivering the industry-leading innovation when it comes down to identity. It's one of the things that we've been doing for quite a while. We enable users to access apps that they need. That's just the crux of it, right? So you don't want to deny somebody access to something that they need to have access to, but you don't want people to be able to access things without it. MFA, or multi-factor authentication. That way we know who they are and what are they doing, what is their role going to be, right? So a lot of the access controls we come across the backside. Credential-based attacks, we prevent users from getting phished for credentials. And that's a huge one, right? Because you can do a lot when it comes down to security. When credentials have been compromised, that's a totally different thing altogether. Dynamic user groups, so we can actually enable your security operations center to respond with identity context. That way they know who it is that's been compromised and how were they compromised, right? So we can kind of come back and take a look at it at the end of the day. There's certain things that are going to be a little different, right? As an example, somebody logs in their computer at 3 o'clock in the morning and you haven't done that in the last 3 or 4 months, might actually flag it and say, hey, this is a little suspicious here. Doesn't necessarily mean that there's something going on. It might just be somebody getting up for a early morning flight or something like that where they check in. So we need to be able to go through there and see and actually respond to that to make sure that it's not identified as malware. But while the blueprint hasn't changed, the identity stores are undergoing a significant disruption. And so that's one of the kind of the key points of it. Customers who don't use user ID, basically you lack the user visibility, right? So you don't know who's doing it. All you know at that point is just an IP address, but you don't necessarily know what the credentials are for that person or why they're doing what they're doing, right? We can't restrict their based on their behavior, so we can't take an automated security action based on user behavior or malicious activities. We also we can't fully utilize our security services, right? So there's a lot of things we have out there, a lot of industry standards, which Palo Alto Networks has as well. Whether you're looking at XOR for the orchestration and automation side of it, or if you're looking at XDR for the detection and response on the backside of it, right? So if you have those security services, it's great, but what happens when those logs are sent in? And most attacks, when we go back and take a look at them, we have a division called Unit 42, which goes back and they do a post-mortem on a lot of different hacks that happen to kind of help you put everything back together again. And almost every single one of them, there's a log entry somewhere. But the problem with it is there's so many log entries that you can't really, efficiently take a look at it and do anything with them, right? So one of the big problems, and so we try to help with that as well. We can't achieve zero trust. So zero trust has been one of the things that's out there. Back in the day, it used to be, ATM services, and there was a lot of different services that were out there that were buzzwords. And nowadays, it's actually zero trust. And what does zero trust actually mean? Does it just allow you to only get certain applications, or how is it rolled out, and kind of what does it do at the end of the day? So before, we were kind of flying blind, right? We didn't really know. All we know is that this IP address is trying to go somewhere. Didn't really know what it was. We had to block it just based on, we don't want Facebook chat, so we're going to go and block Facebook chat. Afterwards, we can actually take a look at it and say, all right, Contractor Joe, we've extrapolated that out of the single sign-on, or out of those packets as they come across, to say this person is actually authenticating with this IP address. They're wanting to go to this application, so we can actually see it. And now we can identify it, put it into a database, and now we have context into what it is, right? Not just with the user, but we also have the app ID side of it as well. So it allows you to really be able to tighten down your security policies and do a lot of really cool things with it. So with identity, control access based on users or groups of users. Again, if you have people that are administrators, you can give them access to certain protocols like SSH. Whereas you have other users that you don't necessarily want them to have access to those. Your attack surface, which is your ASM, that's huge, right? Attack surface management is one of the things that's been a huge hole in the industry for a very long time. Because what is it? What does it mean, right? And that's actually changing. It's changing dynamically, especially with AWS and with Azure that's out there. So it's no longer just your own data center. It's your own office space, everything behind your firewall. But now all of a sudden we have remote users that are out there sitting in an airport. They're at home. A lot of different surfaces that are out there. And how do we effectively allow them to have access to everything and do it smoothly, to where the employee or the contractor, the customer, is not getting frustrated by it, but we can also still secure it at the same time. Comprehensive coverage, so we can do headquarters or branch, a coffee shop, pretty much anywhere you want to go, right, including a park. A lot of times people will use MiFi devices now, right, the little 5G devices to get in. Time-bound access, we can allow or disallow based on time user behavior. We can actually take a look at it and see, what does this person normally do, or what are they supposed to be doing, and then whether there's any malicious users on it as well, right? So that's pretty huge in the security services. We want to prevent known attacks. If somebody steals credentials, we need to be able to shut that down, and shut it down in a single click. So basically not allow it, not have little holes in it, to where we don't really know what's going on or what those credentials are actually being used for. Diving into device ID a little bit more, are there any questions before we go any further? No questions. Awesome. All right. So pressing problems with security devices. One of the big things we've had problems with in the past is limited to no device visibility, right? So somebody comes walking in, bring your own device. You walk in the office with your phone, and it's like, now what? How do we control this, right? We don't have MDM on the phone. There's no way that the company can actually do anything with it, as far as making sure that it's secure, or that it hasn't been compromised. But at the same token, we need to be able to allow that person to do certain functions on it, right? So customer need to know which devices are in their network and rely on multiple third-party tools in order to do it. The improper controls allow and restrict devices. Easy enough to go ahead and go in there and say, hey, I want to deny this name or this device from getting on there. But then you're kind of indiscriminately just killing off access to that device. Some customers have done that. They've actually said, you know what, when it comes down to devices, it's no longer bring your own device, or we're only going to allow bring your own device if you attach to these access points, as an example, right, or to this SSID on your wireless network, so they can actually control it that way. Unable to prevent device threats. So again, you can bring in anything you want to into your network, and nobody really knows about it, right? And then time-sensitive remediation. One of the big problems out there today, which we actually do address on the Cortex side of it, which does play with the next generation firewalls really well, is the ability to be able to actually do something about it once we find out somebody's in your network, right? So once somebody has made it past the firewalls, or they have made it past a device, or compromised credentials, or whatever that we don't even know about yet, how fast can we actually react to that to get everything shut down so that they're not taking our data, or they're not doing anything malicious on our systems, right? And so device ID, in a nutshell, is it's new. It's a Palo Alto Networks OS policy construct for enforcement and visibility. So what it does is, as an administrator, you can apply the consistent control, or policy control and threat prevention to a device no matter where it moves in your network, right? So that's what it is. It uses the IoT security subscription, so there is a subscription on it that actually does that. But it's really cool whenever it actually does that. So you don't have to go in there and say, here's a proxy card reader, and here's where it is, and here's what it does. We can actually do it now based on device ID as we go through the network. So now, after PanOS 10, 10.0, and we're actually on 11.2, I believe it is right now. But now that we have 10.0 and later release, we actually know the devices that are in your network. We can restrict those devices to allowed behavior. So as an example, a proxy card reader can do proxy card stuff. If somebody needs to go to the web, you can actually go to the web. We can prevent the known and unknown threats. And again, we have subscription services on the backside of it as far as threat intelligence goes. So when we start to take a look at the different threats, the matrix and the signature IDs on those, we can actually identify those sooner than later to make sure that they're shut down. What do we mean by unknown threats? Unknown threats are one of the things that actually kind of come about where it's not even a day zero exploit yet. It may be, but we don't really know about it at this point. And it's something that's out there that is going to be malicious to us, right? And so we can actually go through and see what that behavior looks like. Give you an example. Two cell phones want to talk to each other. Why? We don't have peer-to-peer apps anymore, right? So the days of Napster and those are pretty well gone. So we can actually restrict that and say, you know what, that's going to be an unknown threat for now. We're just going to block it and not allow that to happen. Effectively remediate and respond to the threats. Again, like we talked about, built-in logs are not good anymore. So without an intelligent and event management or SIEM in the background, or a SIM, you're going to have problems with trying to react to this, right? So that's what that is. All right, that's pretty much it for the PowerPoint side of it. Are there any questions before we move on to the actual demo? No? Okay. Give me a second here to get this up. All right. Can you see my screen okay, Heather?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, good. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a quick demo here and kind of go over what this looks like and how it can actually be managed. There's two different ways we can manage the Palo Alto firewalls. And in here, we also see Prisma Access. And I'm going to dive into that one just a little bit here as well on what that is and kind of how it works. So what this is Strata Cloud Manager was originally designed for Prisma Access, right? That was kind of what it was made to do. And Prisma Access is the SASE solution. So hosted firewall with all the different SASE type of applications and stuff in there. And we'll dive into that. I'll show you some of this here in a second. But again, on the left-hand side, so now that we're familiar with it, we've gone through it. We have our users, we have our IoT devices over here on the left-hand side. In the center, we can either go next generation firewall, or we can actually bring it out to Prisma Access down here as well, right? So we can take a look at it. We have all these cool little lines here. These lines actually indicate what traffic is going across there. So we can take a look at it and say we have 14.7 gigs between users going to the next generation firewall, and then it's coming out here onto the other side. We have data 10.4 gigs of data transfer that's going to internet applications. Our SaaS applications down here, which again, GitHub, YouTube, all the different hosts that are out there, tells us how much we have there. And then as we go down, we can take a look at it again and kind of see between our private applications for next generation firewall. This information may you look at it and you go, yeah, okay, so what, right? Everybody else can kind of do that out there as well as we take a look at it. But we're going to dive into these different tabs up here in just a second. And as we click on different things, like as an example, IoT devices, we can now start to see what our IoT devices are as far as going through Prisma Access. If I click on Prisma Access, it takes out the next generation firewall. And now it goes over here. I now see that I have 80 applications that are actually being accessed from over here at 36 Internet. So if I click on SaaS applications, I can start to kind of see, and I can drill into these as well. So each one of these links is a hyperlink. I can click on it and I can drill down further and further and further. And it gets less and less graphical and more into the, this is what it actually looks like and this is what it does. Up in the right-hand corner, we can see we can go all the way up to the last 30 days or the last hour, whatever we want to do on it over here. And then we also have Copilot, which is AI. I know everybody's tired of hearing about AI, but it is AI built in. And what you can do is you can go in there and just ask it anything you want to ask, and it'll basically pull that up for you in here as well. So you can really kind of go through and see from the backside of it what's going on, a little bit of a better model on the whole thing. We go down here to users and take a look at it. We have branch users and remote users. So whether it be branch users coming out of one of your remote locations, or your remote users which are on a laptop sitting in an airport. If we come over here and we want to change it back here again as an example, we can do that. And then we can go to Prisma Access down here, and now we can start taking a look at the Prisma Access as well. So it's really easy to kind of go back and forth. Gives you a really good view, and if you look at the different parts of it, it gives you a really, really good graphical on what's going on. Down below here, it also has a little bit more on each one of them. It tells you your segments, whether as far as the LAN or the device, application, or Wi-Fi, and gives you a score with it to kind of give you an idea of what that's looking like. And then over here on the right-hand side, here's our users, and we can actually kind of see what's going on down there as well. Okay. Up here on the top, we're going to go over to threats. The threat landscape is like we said before, this is becoming more and more prevalent in our environments, unfortunately. And so what we do is we want to take a look at it and say, okay, here's our threat prevention. Here's our URL filtering, or wildfire, which is any kind of malicious code or activities are going on. DNS security, we brought this up a while ago. And like I said, you can click on DNS security, and now we can start to really kind of see what's going on. If you hover over the top of it, as you can see there, it actually shows you how many of these DNS securities were blocked, and then how many were alerted on. Alerted means I don't really want to block it. All I want to do is notify somebody that's out there. Then the next generation firewall down below, as far as the devices go, we can see how many are without licenses or active licenses, or Prisma Access licenses as well, right? We can dive into, as an example, wildfire. Take a look at it. We can see 980 on the advanced wildfire was blocked. And again, how many licenses there are for each one of them as we go through. So it gives you a really good context on kind of what's going on. SaaS applications, if I click on that, I can actually kind of come down here and start to see. Rapid Share is the one that we have, and there's 24 threats on it. And again, as promised, we go ahead and click on it, and it brings up the threat intelligence for that side of it. So now we can really kind of start diving a little bit more. One of the big things that we do over here is we actually have an app risk. This is actually done from our data lake on the backside, right? So we take a look at this. We can now quantify exactly what that is going to look like, whether it is going to be a high risk, medium, or low. And the reason why this is put up there is, like we talked about earlier, if you have a SIM and you have all these logs coming in there, I don't know what that means, right? Somebody logged in at 3 o'clock in the morning. Is that malicious or is it not? We actually rank it for you so that basically your SOC operator now can take a look at this and see, hey, you know what? This is high. We might really want to take a look at this and see what's going on with it, and why is it actually high. And again, we can actually drop into that a little bit more and see. It's a scale from 1 to 5, and it's actually done on our application on the backside of it, right, from our characteristics, so we can see it. All right, so get back over here again. Go back to our command center. All right, so that's the threats page right there. And again, here's our threat prevention up here on the top, IDS, IPS as well, as we start to take a look at it. And if I don't click on it, if I just go over the top of it, it should actually bring up. Oh, let me click on it. It'll actually bring up again the same thing we saw earlier over there. Okay. If I click on operational health, this actually kind of gives you the operational health of what's going on as far as the users. What is the user's experience? This is kind of an important one, right? If we have an outage of a branch, or we have a firewall that, for whatever reason is having issues with the internet connection, or something actually happened with it, we kind of need to know about it, right? As far as what the health is. So if somebody calls in, we can, a couple clicks later, we can actually take a look at it and see and say, hey, you know what? We do have some degraded users down here. So who are they? And we click on them, and now we can start to see, are they remote users? Are they branch offices, or whatever it is, right? So there's nobody in the branch offices. There are some remote users out there. And they're potentially degraded right now, right? And then we can take a look at it and see, are they going through a next generation firewall to do this? So here's our ADEM for next generation firewall, which is not supported in this version. Will be in the next one. Prisma Access down here. Now we can take a look at it and we can see what's degraded, what's not being monitored. And then if we want to, we can click on the SASE health and we'll actually get over to Prisma Access side of it here for SASE, and we can drill in a little bit more. All right, data security side of it, this data in motion and data at rest. It's really important to take a look at it. Like we said, we continuously check the lines between those connections, between your end user device, IoT device, and the firewall itself, right? What's going on? How are we doing? And how is that data? What is that data? And how is it actually being used? Who's accessing it? And where is it actually going, right? And that's going to be our data in motion up here. The data at rest, this is like you would think it is, right? So your XDR clients are coming across and saying your discovery and response side of it, or detect and response, and it's saying, what is this data actually doing? Is there something in there that's accessing this as we go? On the right hand side over here, we can take a look at it. We can see each one of these, right? So here's our Gmail base. Base meaning this is going to be anything that just goes to Gmail, right? From there, we have subcategories: Gmail chat, we have Gmail Slack. There's a lot of different things that we actually have that are subcategories underneath that. And then down below here, if you notice, we actually have what's called PA browser, and this is Prisma Access browser. Gives you another layer on top of it again. So now you have your firewall, you have your global protect, which actually connects. Now we can kind of control it. XDR client, which sits on your laptop, that actually gives you all your alerts and indicators. And the browser is the next level, which is what I'm using right now, which is Prisma Access browser. Looks just like Chrome, feels like Chrome as you go through there. But what it actually does is it's a little bit more than that, right? So it gives you access and restricts access to different types of resources that I may actually go to, right? So that's what the Prisma Access browser actually does. All right, on the left-hand side over here, if we want to take a look at it, we have a lot of different tabs. We have insights, we have dashboards. I'm going to go ahead and stop right there as we go through here, but I want to check to make sure that there's no questions out there. If there's not, that's pretty much kind of at the end of my presentation here.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Paul. We'll give another minute to see if anyone posts anything. I don't see anything in chat or QA right now, but appreciate that. Great content and good looking at the actual tool. For those on the call, just to let you know, I will be following up with you via email with some contact information, as well as Paul's going to provide his slides so you can review those. If this is something that you would like to dig deeper in with your team, bring some of the other people in your organization in, we're happy to schedule a follow-up call to have some follow-up discussions and dive deeper into this and run through an actual demo if you're interested in that. But really appreciate everybody's time and in this today. So in the communication you receive from me, I'll also send you information on when our rodeo dates are, and then you can let me know what night you're interested in and we'll get you those tickets. And then lastly, I am about to do the drawing. I just use the Apple spin the wheel random picker based on the attendees that we currently have on. Give me 1 second. Let me hit spin here. Looks like John Douglas Jr. Do we still have John on the line?
Yes, I am here.
Awesome. Well, congratulations, John. Appreciate you joining us today. And then I'll reach out to you as a follow-up regarding that to-go gift card. So you'll be all ready to go to the rodeo this year.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Yes. Again, we really appreciate everybody's attendance. Like I said, I'll send that follow-up information to everybody. And if you have any questions regarding anything you heard about Palo or Fulcrum, just feel free to reach back out to me and I'll make sure and put you in touch with the right resources.
Thank you.
Oh, was there a question?
No, just thank you for doing this. Thank you,
Oh,
Paul.
awesome. Thanks, Lisa. Certainly appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thank you.